Hey, Craig Shumway here, Arizona's best realtor. We're gonna go over a little bit about the real estate market right now and why right now is the best time to be a move-up buyer, or what I like to call a level-up buyer. What does that mean? That means you own a home, you have lived in it for 5 to 10 years, and it's time to expand. Either you need more space from working from home, your little munchkins running around have grown up a little bit, or you're just looking to get into a better living situation. Now is one of the best times in history to do that, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, here in the Phoenix area in Arizona, we are seeing that mortgage payments are about $150 to $250 a month cheaper than rents for that same size of home. That's great. That's a huge boost to be like, okay, it's still much better to buy than it is to rent. Second, we saw in the last year about 83,000 new residents move to Arizona. What does that mean? That means the demand for homes is as high as it's been in a long time, also meaning that the supply is low because people are coming in and purchasing the homes. Now, a couple things to note from that. The in-state budget for people that are moving within state is about $509,000. Whereas the out-of-state, so people that are coming from other states, these 83,000 new residents, their average budget is $627,000. What does this all mean? It is definitely a seller's market, and why there's a lot of competition for homes right now in the Phoenix area. So why do I say that makes it the best time to move up? Well, here's why. Let's say a few years ago you bought your home for $100,000. We've had this hot streak going. You can sell your home now for $200,000. Well, this is the perfect scenario, perfect time to sell a home, right? Because first of all, you're gonna have more competition when you go to sell. So you're gonna get about highest price as you can get for your house. So let's say we do sell it for the $200,000, that gives you $100,000 in equity. So you're saying, yes, great, Craig, I understand. It's a good time to sell my house. But what about me having to purchase and go into another home? Well, here's what you now have. You now have this $100,000 in equity that you can use to go in to buy a home. So with that excess money, you're gonna be able to cover more of your down payment. In most cases, you'll have 20% of the down payment depending on how much you owe on the house, which means you won't have principal mortgage insurance. So that means your monthly payment on your mortgage is going to be significantly less because you now have 20% down to put on your new house. Second of all, you're gonna be a strong buyer. Right now, sellers are only looking at strong buyers. So yes, they may receive 30 offers on a house, but they're only looking at those that are gonna be the most strong. With $100,000 in equity, you now have the freedom to be able to waive part of your appraisal contingency and you'll still be okay. Or you're gonna have the freedom to go a little bit above asking price and you're still going to be okay. So as a buyer that is leveling up, you're in a stronger position to buy. The other thing that you're going to notice is that when you do buy, because interest rates are much lower than when you bought a few years ago, that your monthly payment won't change as dramatically as you think it will. Interest rates at historic lows allow you to purchase a higher value of home and not pay as much for the financing. Money is cheaper than it has been in a long time. So for those reasons, when you sell in a high market, you have a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom in what you're able to buy. Now, let's look at the other scenario. Let's say, well, Craig, prices seem too high. I would like to see them level out, go down. So let's play another scenario. Let's say you start with $100K. You purchased your house a few years ago. Let's say the market just stayed even. Well, guess what you just lost? You just lost all of that extra equity that you have to be able to go and purchase. And all of the expenses to selling your home are going to be greater because so if you sell it, you bought it for 100 and you sell it for 100, well, what about the taxes, the insurance, the real estate agent commission, everything that goes into selling a home gets taken out of that profit. So now all of a sudden, without that equity, your buying power hasn't increased at all. And so even though you could get a home that's cheaper, your level up home, guess what? It's still gonna probably cost more in this market. Instead of 100K, maybe you're looking now to buy 250K. So this home that's, let's say 400,000 in a hot market, in a neutral market is only 250, but you have no extra money for down payment, closing costs, to negotiate with the seller to put into that 250K. So it becomes much harder to even get into a home at this price than it would be in a hot market where you're dealing with 100K in equity to get into a higher price home. Now, how does this affect your specific situation? Well, let's sit down and look at it. Because everybody's situation, what you owe on the house, what current interest rate you're paying, all of those things factor into it. But I will tell you that with the demand on homes right now, if you can get into a home that you love and it's great for your family, this is the best time to actually level up and do it. Okay, now let's take that scenario from the other view. Let's say, okay, prices drop a little bit. Now you're saying, oh, sweet, the home that I want, it costs a little bit less. What does that mean for you as you're trying to move up? So let's say you purchase your home here at 100K and the market, went up a little bit, but not too crazy. Now your home is worth 120K. You go to sell the house. Well, cool, you're thinking, okay, 20 grand in equity. It's not as much as the 100 grand we were talking about in the hot market that you get, but let's say you got 20 grand in equity. Now, is that 20 grand gonna be enough to cover your selling fees? Is it gonna be enough to cover your moving fees? Is it gonna be enough to cover, all the things that are involved with selling a home? It might cover all of that, but you're definitely gonna be left over with a lot less to deal with when it comes to down payment, closing costs, and being able to compete against other markets. Also, in this scenario, your home may stick on the market for 3 to 4 to 6 months before you sell it. Okay, so selling it becomes harder, but we're talking about, okay, cool. Yeah, selling it in a down market is not as easy, but buying's much easier, right? Yeah, it might be a little bit less competition, but let's walk through that. So your dream home here, your dream home. In the hot market, your dream home is gonna cost $450,000. Whew! And that same house in this down market is gonna cost $250,000. Woohoo! But hold on a second. It's going to be easier in a hot market to get into the $450,000 home than it will be to get into the $250,000 home in a cold market. And here's why. First of all, you don't have the 100 grand in equity we were talking about in the previous example. So that 250, that's gotta come from your, when we're talking about down payment, closing costs, everything you need to get in the home, that's gotta come from maybe a little bit from here. The rest of it's gotta come from your savings. So you're depleting the amount of money that you have on hand for your family. In this case, that can all come from the equity that you have gained from your house. The other thing that happens is as the economy decreases, guess what also decreases? Most people's income does not increase in a down economy. So if home prices start falling, we can usually count on income decreasing. Also, interest rates typically, historically, will go up at that point. So you might find that your monthly payment for the $450 with a low interest rate, high demand economy is very similar to what your monthly payment would be in a $250 lower economy with higher interest rates. So is now the right time to level up? We have seen some amazing things for people to be able to level up their home living situation. What does that mean for you specifically? Well, that depends on what your scenario is. This is a hypothetical scenario where if you can have the equity, it's easier to pull out, it's easier to move up, and even though there is competition on homes, you're going to have an easier time competing. In a down economy where you don't have the equity to use and you don't have the competition in selling your home, it makes it, even though it might be easier to compete on the buying end, your buying power is decreased. So let's sit down and talk about what that would mean for you specifically.